Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we are live. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining us for today evening Gita Essence session. Our discussion continues on Bhagavad Gita. So it's not the last day, although we are on the chapter 18, but as per our schedule, we have one more weekend, the coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And what's the schedule for that? We'll let you know just in a short while. So to begin with our program, let us offer respectful prayers. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatai Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So once again we welcome all of you for this discussion on Bhagavad Gita, and we are on the 18th chapter. At least I'm really excited that we could stay committed all this while. And I would say thanks to the COVID, because our movements were restricted. And as a result of it, we could finish this program in time. Although today is not going to be the last session. 18th chapter is one of the biggest chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And while I was studying this chapter today, then I realized there is no need to hurry up the discussion and give you the summary in an hour, which would not justify the content or the discussion that Lord Shri Krishna has or had with Arjuna in this. So, as per our original schedule, we have another weekend, the follow-up weekend. So on Saturday, we had planned to have earlier to do the overview of the last section of or the Jnana Yoga section or chapter 13 to chapter 18. So we'll have overview as well as we'll have whatever remains from our today's discussion. We'll have that. And plus we'll try to adjust some question answers, as many of you had asked that if we can have a dedicated question answer session. And on Sunday, we'll have the concluding talk on what's next in terms of what is the practical aspect of Bhagavad Gita by His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu. So let's begin with our discussion on chapter 18. The matter of fact is, Srila Prabhupada, right in the very first verse of the 18th chapter in the purport writes that actually Bhagavad Gita concluded at the end of 17th chapter itself. If you remember, we discussed 17th chapter yesterday, where Lord Shri Krishna describes how our faith, how charity, how sacrifice, and different aspects are influenced by the modes of material nature. And finally, in the concluding verses of chapter 17, Lord Shri Krishna said, to set oneself free from the influences of modes of material nature and to access the transcendence, one has to chant Om Tat Sat. One has to take shelter of Om Tat Sat. And the idea of this Om Tat Sat is, Om refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means one has to change his mentality from being the doer, being the enjoyer, to the mentality of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So like this, in that context, this chapter 18 now begins, wherein there is no newer discussion which is going to happen. Rather, it's a summary of whatever Lord Shri Krishna had instructed Arjuna. And this is what chapter 18 is all about. So in order to emphasize the goal of the all Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is now going to summarize more or less everything that he already told before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna stresses. So I will request the host to have a poll. And for those who are watching on YouTube, for them, we'll have the options here. So we are on the summary, we are on the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, we have studied the whole of Bhagavad Gita. This is a summary of rest of the Bhagavad Gita. So here's my question to all of you. What does Lord Shri Krishna stresses in every chapter of Bhagavad Gita? And these are the options for you. Does Lord Krishna stresses, do your duty and leave the rest to Almighty? Does Lord stresses, devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life? Or else, renunciation of work is supreme? Or act according to dharma and enjoy the material world? What is the repetitive theme of Bhagavad Gita? What is the prominent message Lord Shri Krishna reiterates in almost every chapter of Bhagavad Gita? So I hope we are able to see the poll question here, and the poll is going on. And in case there are somebody who are watching on YouTube, you can select your option and reply, I believe, whatever on the chat or something. So can the host let us know what's the result?
Guruji, 11 people says that it is devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life.
Tell me the percentage.
85%. 85%.
Okay. And remaining?
do your duty and leave the rest to Almighty.
Well, 85% seems like the audience says, Krishna says, devotional service unto the Supreme Personality Godhead is the ultimate goal of life, which is in fact correct answer. So I'm glad at least, something we have discussed and learned through the discussion of Bhagavad Gita. Yes. And this is the same point which is summarized in the 18th chapter, where again Lord Shri Krishna brings out the importance of practicing bhakti or devotional service as the ultimate goal of life. So let us begin with defining the acronym as we generally do for all our chapters of Bhagavad Gita, where the acronym for this chapter of 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is SMILE. Very interesting acronym here. Of course, the Bhagavad Gita is about to conclude and everyone should have a smile on their face. Why? Because all our ignorance, avidya, must have been destroyed by the study of Bhagavad Gita. Well, let's take a look what S stands for us. Begin with the discussion. S stands for summary of Karma Yoga from verse number 1 to 18. The first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, there's the Karma Yoga. So that's what is discussed here. So Karma Yoga section begins with a question that Arjuna asked in the 3rd chapter, 1st verse, where he asked, my dear Lord, should I renounce? Should I work? And still now, at this point in time, the question persists. You can say it is one of the most frequently asked questions in Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna time and again come back to the subject matter. Should I renounce? Should I perform duty? Whereas here, at this point of time, Arjuna asks a similar question, but in a different tone. And Arjuna says, 18th chapter, verse number 1, Sannyasasya mahabhaho tattvam ichhami veditam tyagasya cha rishikesha prathak keshi nishudana. Keshi nishudana, the one who had killed Keshi demon, a very, very powerful demon. So Arjuna calls Krishna as Keshi Nishudan, just like you could destroy and kill a very powerful demon. Similarly, the doubts are compared to demons. So Arjuna says, my dear Lord, you can kill the Keshi demon. You can definitely kill the demon of doubt that had arisen in my heart. And what is the doubt? Sannyasasya mahabhavo tattvam ichhami veditam tyagasya cha rishikesha. My dear Lord, what is sannyas and what is tyaga? What is the purpose of renounced order? And what is the purpose of renunciation, or what is renunciation? And this, this is how the 18th chapter begins, where the discussion would happen between sannyas is better or tyaga is better, or both. Let's take a look. So sannyas refers to sannyas order. There is a brahmachari, grasta, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So sannyas order, the renounced order. Whereas tyaga refers to renunciation, to give up. So what is sannyas and what is tyaga? Lord Shri Krishna describes in the 2nd and 3rd verse, where Krishna says sannyas means giving up activities based on material desires. I will explain in a short while. Whereas tyaga means giving up the results of all the activities. Sannyas means giving up the activities, and tyaga means giving up the results of all the activities. So Srila Prabhupada in his purpose describes there are 2 kinds of activities. First is called as nitya karma. Nitya karma refers to prescribed duties that leads to the upliftment in spiritual life, like deity worship, chanting of Gayatri, chanting of Vedic hymns is called as nitya karma, the duties that ought to be performed because that leads to a spiritual upliftment. That's nitya karma. Second kind of activity is called as kamya karma. What is kamya karma? Kamya karma refers to activities which are done to fulfill one's own desire. Like putra kameshti yajna, where a yajna is performed with a desire to have a putra, to have a child, to have a son. So the activities which are done to fulfill some material desires are said to be kamya karma. So what is sannyas and what is tyaga? So Krishna says, or Krishna explains, sannyas means to give up kamya karma and perform nitya karma. Are you getting the point now? That the sannyasi gives up the activities activities for sense gratification, which means he gives up kamya karma. Sannyas doesn't mean that you don't perform any activity, but what you perform, nitya karma, chanting the holy names of the Lord, reading scriptures, sharing the message of Godhead with others, so worshipping the deities. These are all called as nitya karma. So that is sannyas order. What about tyagi? In tyag, what happens? In tyag, or the renunciate, the true renunciate, does not give up either of it. Neither he gives kamya karma or nitya karma. In fact, he performs both kamya and nitya karma, but without the attachment to the results. And this is what the essence of the Karma Yoga section. Perform your duty without the attachment to the results, because nobody can live in this world without performing activities. So when Arjuna heard like this, he began to ponder. And he thought, my dear Lord, some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as a faulty. In other words, whatever activity a person does, even to maintain himself, becomes an activity to take care of oneself, is also mundane, is also faulty, should be given up. And Lord Shri Krishna says, no, that is not correct. So Krishna explains this from verse number 4 to verse number 12 of the 18th chapter, where Arjuna asks, should I give up activity or should one give up activity? Krishna says, no, one should not give up activity. In fact, the spiritualist always encourages the following of purificatory practices such as sacrifice, charity, and penance. This is similar discussion from the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says an ignorant man should not be disturbed. He should be encouraged to perform activities or duties. So in text number 5, Srila Prabhupada gives an example, because here Lord Shri Krishna speaks about sacrifices, charity, and penances. These acts should not be stopped. So Srila Prabhupada in text number 5 in the purport gives an example of Vivaha Yajna. And Srila Prabhupada says, I believe, yes, I have included the text here, where Prabhupada says, there are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. So what's the point here? Krishna makes a point that the spiritualist should not discourage others for performing their activities. And the activities like charity, sacrifices, penances are ought to be performed, and it even benefits the purified souls. So what to speak of people who are in the process of advancing in spiritual life? So Prabhupada says, there are certain activities which meant to be performed because it helps a person advance in spiritual life. And one such activity Prabhupada talks about is Vibha Yajna. It's interesting, huh? It's called Yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. Why it's called sacrifice? Because through the act of this Vibha Yajna, the person becomes responsible. And now he's tied to a bond of taking care of another person. The male takes a vow to take care of a female, and the female takes care of vow to provide and to take care of the man and to raise a family together. And because of which all this illicit relationship and the free mixing stops. So this is a yajna. This should be performed and this should be encouraged. And Srila Prabhupada writes further. He raises a question: should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony or not? Because there are certain spiritual sects where grahastha life or married life is completely prohibited. If you want to be part of their spiritual circle, you have to accept renounced order and not otherwise. So Srila Prabhupada is raising a question: should sannyasi encourage vivaha yajna or not? Srila Prabhupada writes ahead. The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. And these are the sacrifices prescribed in the scriptures, such as Vivaha Yajna. So Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Why? Sannyasi should never associate with women. but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stage of life, which means yet their consciousness have not fully awakened to understand the spiritual realm. A young man should not accept, okay, yes, so sannyasi should not discourage a young man from not accepting a wife. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the supreme Lord. In other words, no one should be artificially encouraged to accept the renounced order, that is sannyas. Rather, the person should be engaged in the prescribed duties, engaged in sacrifices, acts of penances, and he should be taught about tyaga. Tyaga means where a person performs kamya karma, the karma to fulfill one's desire, and nitya karma, activities such as spiritual activity, deity worship, offering prasadam to the Lord. However, in a spirit of tyag. What is tyag? Where he is not attached with the results. That is a point that Lord Shri Krishna is bringing out. We should not artificially cause chaos or crisis in the society by inculcating an artificial and a temporary spirit of renunciation, where a person is not yet qualified. So that's how Lord Shri Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, that Arjuna, what you should do, you should engage right now in the spirit of Tyaga. Perform your duty. By performing this duty, you would help establish dharma. So this act of fighting in the war is an act of sacrifice and penance for you. So this is the statement that we have taken from Bhagavad Gita 18.5 purport. In essence, Tyaga or sannyas, what is the conclusion? Krishna says in 18th chapter, verse number 6, all these activities like sacrifices, penances, which are described, should be performed, but without attachment or any expectation or result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pratha, and that is my final opinion. And Srila Prabhupada very beautifully elaborates this point, and he writes, the performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, which means one should not perform activities for the sake of result, but as a matter of duty. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge should never be given up. So here Lord Shri Krishna is encouraging Arjuna by explaining him that Arjuna, you should perform your duty as a matter, as a responsibility, and leave the results in the hands of the providence. You being a Kshatriya, you're engaged in a war, which is ghastly, undoubtedly. But because of this act, it is a duty prescribed for a Kshatriya. And when you do this act, you'll be helping in establishing dharma. And with that, you'll advance in spiritual life. So like this, Lord Shri Krishna explains Arjuna that how to perform activity as a matter of duty, particularly those which are prescribed in the scriptures, are important for the advancement in spiritual life. And then Lord Shri Krishna describes that there are three kinds of renunciation. So whenever you hear three, you should always remember Sattva-gun, Rajagun, Tamo-gun. So we're going to begin with renunciation, but Lord Shri Krishna is going to further speak about the modes of material nature, where Krishna will speak about how our happiness, how our determination, how our understanding, how our work, how our activity or the performer, everything is classified into these three categories based on the influences of Sattva, Raja, and Tamagun. So let's take a look at the renunciates or renunciation according to Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So text number 7, wherein Lord Shri Krishna first speaks about ignorance, renunciation done in ignorance. What does Lord Krishna says? Prescribed duties should never be renounced. What I have given you up on the screen is a summary. I'm reading from the Bhagavad Gita directly. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. In other words, for example, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to America, was a sannyasi. Now, as a sannyasi, should he encourage people to get married? Yes or no? Well, Srila Prabhupada already established before that it's a vivaha yajna. And it is important for those people who are young to get married than to be engaged in illicit relationship. So Srila Prabhupada, considering the Western situation, engaged or himself engaged in getting his disciples married. So Prabhupada performed Vivaha Yajna for his disciples. Now, who are these people? They were actually living like cats and dogs. There was no culture. But by teaching them the spirit of this Vivaha Yajna and the responsibility in it, Srila Prabhupada raised their consciousness. So somebody says, no, sannyasi has got nothing to do with marriage. He should not engage in, encouraging others to get married or to take part in the marriage ceremony to bless the couple. That Srila Prabhupada writes is renunciation and ignorance because he's giving up his prescribed duty. And what is a prescribed duty? To engage oneself and to also encourage others to engage in the activities of sacrifice and penances described in scriptures. Text number 8, where renunciation and passion. What is renunciation and passion? Anyone who gives up prescribed duties, considering it to be troublesome, kaya klesh bhayat, finding it to be bodily discomfort, is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Which means when a person feels that, oh, my work life has become very difficult, I have to work for 12 hours, 14 hours in office is becoming unbearable. I guess I should give up my office life and I should become a brahmachari. Brahmachari life is so peaceful. He doesn't have to worry for shelter. He doesn't have to worry for food. He doesn't have to pay any bills. Everything is taken care for him. And look at his beautiful life. He gets to sleep in time, no late nights. He wakes up early in the morning, then he chants, he dances, he sings. Look at me, I'm working like an ass whole day. At the end of the day, I have to sing on the tune of someone else. Everyone is singing on the tune of somebody else. Whereas Brahmachari is singing on the tune of Lord Shri Krishna by chanting and glorifying. So I should give up. I should give up all this and I should become Brahmachari. So that is what being described as renunciation and passion, where the act of renouncing and taking to the renounce order is not properly understood. Am I qualified? Can I live in that ashram? Can I really stop engaging myself in the worldly duties? Because I've got temporarily fed up, because I've got a project deadline and I had to work for 2 weeks for long hours, I've got fed up. And I can tell you how many times whenever this IT folks, when they get really pressurized by their managers, that is a time that they have this, euphoria or epiphany, as they say, which means the realization that everything is useless in this world. My goal of life is Krishna Bhakti and I should renounce. And that is a time when you get the maximum calls and text messages. So whenever somebody tells me, Prabhuji, I have decided I want to become brahmachari, I generally ask him, how's your office life going on? Are you having a lot of hard work? Or do you have a project deadline to meet? Or everything is okay like that? So that's the point being described here. Like Srila Prabhupada said, this ISKCON brahmachari ashrams are not like some free hotel where people can come and live. In fact, Prabhupada said, brahmacharis and the devotees of the Lord should work doubly harder than even the karmis. So that's the point. So renunciation and passion means one wants to get away from his responsibilities owing to the fact that he finds it to be troublesome, and he's looking for an excuse based on his bodily discomfort and whatnot. Text number 9, which describes what is the renunciation in goodness, which is the right kind of a renunciation. Where Krishna says, where a person performs his prescribed duty because it is ought to be done, while renouncing all material association and all attachment to the fruit, which means to the result. His renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness, which means troublesome, inconvenient, convenient, or blissful. It does not matter. I need to do it because this is what is the need of the hour. To give an example, Jayananda Prabhu, one of the stalwarts of ISKCON movement, I believe he was the temple president of San Francisco's in those days, back in 1970s, late 60s. And at one point of time, it's in the beginning time when new temple has started, when the movement is, is making inroads in America and the Western world and getting established. So Janan Prabhu was the temple president. However, the financial situation of temple was very bad. They didn't have money to pay the rent, and that was more or less the situation with almost every temple in those days. So Jayanand Prabhu, despite being a temple president where he has given up all worldly duties, and his task was to take care of the temple and the temple community and the deities and take care of his own spiritual life, he went back outside. He took a taxi. Although he was a graduate from Ohio State University, if I'm correct, this is the place where I also graduated. I believe he was also a graduate of that. Despite all that, he went and started driving taxi, and he used to work 8 to 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours, just to earn enough so that the temple can function. And whatever he would earn, he would use that money to manage the temple expenses, pay off the rent, and manage all programs that were going on. So this is the renunciation, which you can say renunciation mode of goodness, where a person performs prescribed duties because it need to be done. I need to do this. Why? Because Krishna's service has to be maintained. And it can also be called as an act in a pure goodness, like that. Similarly, we know the example of Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj had come to Tukaram and he said, my dear Tukaramji, I want to become your disciple. I want to give up this princely duties. I also want to chant the holy names of the Lord. What Tukaram said? No, Shivaji Maharaj, the world needs you. This country needs you. You're required to establish dharma because you can help establish Sanatana Dharma. You should go back and perform your duty. And Shivaji Maharaj did it. So this is called as a true renunciation, where Shivaji Maharaj was not inclined, yet he did it. Jayanand Prabhu was not inclined. He had already given up worldly duties, yet he went and did that just for the sake or for the matter of duty. Similarly, I remember in a couple of years ago when I started coming at Hinjawadi, we were having this hotel Tamanna where I used to do weekly program. So one person had got connected with us that time, and he was coming for almost 1.5 years. He was almost 50 plus. And suddenly a spirit of renunciation got awakened within him, and he said, Prabhu, I want to leave my job. I have got fed up, and I want to join temple. Manika, Baba, you're not 20-year-old boy that you can join temple. You're 50-year-old. What about your family? He said, I'm never married. I said, okay, fine. But I guess because you're so conditioned to work, you cannot renounce like that. We have to have a proper engagement for you. He said, no, Prabhu, I just want to sit and chant whole day. I want to read scriptures. I don't want to do anything. I've done my responsibilities. I've taken care of my parents. I have enough money to give it to them. So this discussion continued for some time because the idea was that, is he really serious? Has he really got purified to give up his worldly duties and come and join temple? Because he really, really pushed me. And finally, I took out permission from temple and we invited him for a month. That you come and stay in the temple for a month, check out the lifestyle, and if you wish, then you can continue. And this devotee did not last 10 days. After 10th day, he disappeared. He disappeared in such a way. Since then, up to today, I have never seen him. I have never met him. Prior to that, he was my student, He had been connected to me and all that. And what had happened after he joined in? First 1 or 2 days, he felt like a great sense of relief because he doesn't have to go out. He doesn't have to meet the worldly people. He doesn't have to listen from the manager, the complaints and whatnot. And he doesn't have to pay any rent. He's comfortably situated. He has a food, he has shelter and everything. However, the old habits die hard because he's not yet purified. He has artificially given up on work. He became very agitated and disturbed. He cannot sit and chant for hours. He cannot read. And he started demanding, I need something, give me something. Can I do this? Can I do that? And there was nothing appropriate for us at that point of time to engage him. And whatever we suggested, he didn't consider it to be appropriate for himself. Within a week's time, it became such a knack for me that if he would be coming from front, I would turn around and run away because he's going to really take my time, and really harass me. And finally, the 10th day, when I came back from Hinjawadi, I saw a note on my office. We have office in Ashram, that Prabhu, thank you, but I have decided to again go back and work because I'm not able to continue this lifestyle. I wish he's still performing devotional service, but I'm not sure where is he. That's the point I'm trying to make here, which Krishna is saying. Renunciation is best if it is situated in goodness, which means the person should be situated in goodness. Then only his renunciation would be in goodness. But if it is given like in mode of passion and ignorance, then it can bring chaos to the society. Like this, Lord Shri Krishna talks about. And then ahead, Krishna speaks in the 10th verse, who is an intelligent renouncer? Na dveshti akshalam karma kushale nanusajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chinna samshaya. Medhavi means intelligent. The intelligent renouncer, situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to the auspicious work. And he has no doubts either about the work. Very interesting point. He neither hates work, neither he loves work. In other words, if it is inauspicious, he does not dislike it. If it is auspicious, he does not fall in love with it. What it means, take an example of Arjuna. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Now Arjuna had to fight in a war. It's a ghastly activity where he had to kill people. No doubt it's inauspicious, yes or no? It's totally inauspicious from one perspective, where he had to kill people, destroy the lives of livelihood of so many families and so forth. So is it auspicious or inauspicious? That's the point. The act is inauspicious. However, the purpose for which Arjuna is standing at the battlefield of Kurukshetra is all auspicious, because the purpose of engaging in the war for Arjuna was to uphold dharma and establish dharma. And that was the desire of the Lord. So the act could be inauspicious. The act which could be that Arjuna was not appreciating that he had to kill his own relatives. But what was the purpose of that act? The purpose was to establish. And that is what I mean by intelligent renouncer, which means he is not attached to the type of work. He likes or dislikes, he has to perform. For example, a surgeon. Surgeon has to perform, a doctor has to perform a surgery on the body of a patient. It's a very frightening task. You tore apart the body, not tore apart. Doctors doesn't do that. You slit open the body, you open the body, and then you stitch it. The blood is oozing out. You take out the lungs and whatnot. It looks like very ghastly. But what is the purpose? The purpose is to save the life. At that point of time, surgeon says, oh, no, I cannot do it. My hands will get dirty. I would have to touch the blood of the patient. No, I cannot do it. Now, that is not appropriate. So that is the meaning of intelligent renouncer. He is not like or dislike. He's not affected to it. Similarly, another example can be taken, just like parents. Sometimes parents have to chastise their kids. Now, chastising kids may affect the relationship for some time. The kids may get hurt. The child may get hurt that my father, mother chastises me. The act may seem inauspicious. You may not like to chastise your son or daughter, but if that chastisement helps the child to become a gentleman, become a better person, is that auspicious? Yes or no? And that is what Krishna says. This is the meaning of intelligent renouncer, where a person is freed from the concept of like or dislike, but he does it because that is dharma. That is a duty that has to be performed to uphold dharma. And then Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, the fact is, nobody can stay without performing duty. And this is text number 11. Nahi the bhrata shakyam tyaktam karmani asheshatah yastu karma phala tyagi satyagiti abhibhidhyate. Arjuna, it is impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the results, again, again and again the message comes, give up the results of your work, become detached from it, use it in the service of the Lord. One who gives up the fruits of his hard work is called as truly renounced. What you see on your screen right now is a photo of Alfred Ford, who is great grandson of Henry Ford, the owner of the Ford, the founder of the Ford company, the Ford Motors. Very, very wealthy person. And Alfred Ford is also known as Amrish Das or Amrish Prabhu. He is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He still, of course, he has inherited a lot of wealth of his great grandfather, of his father, of his father, of his family. Yet he has not got attached to that wealth. And up to today, he tries to find means, ways to support ISKCON on a daily basis. And right now, he's trying to fulfill one of the biggest and cherished dream of Srila Prabhupada to build one of the biggest and the unique temples in the whole world, titled as Temple of Vedic Planetarium, wherein Amrish Prabhu or Alfred Ford by himself have contributed more than 300 crores, more than 50% of the contribution for the project. So who's renounced? A person who is wearing the dress, who is in the renounced order, or the person who is doing all his activities as a service to the Lord? The person who is not attached to the fruits of his hard work and uses the fruits of his hard work in the service of the Lord. And that is the point Lord Shri Krishna makes here. Who is truly renounced? Not the one who wears the dress. The one who wears the dress or does not wear the dress, but one who is truly renounced is one who is willing to use the results of his hard work in the service of the Lord. Why Krishna again and again says so? Because the nature of a conditional living entity is to always, before any activity engages or she engages, he always or she always says, "What's in for me?" Yes or no? Mera kya? Mujhe kya milega? It's always give and take relationship. This is how the world is designed. So we are very attached to the idea that what will I get in return? And of that attachment, due to this attachment, we stay bound under the clutches of these karmic reactions. To get rid of it, we have to detach ourselves. So Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, how not to be attached to results gained by one's hard work? How many of you think Arjuna is genuine asking this question? How many of you thinking this question? You're saying give up the result, give up the result, but how can I give the result? I worked so hard for it. I deserve it. I am meant to enjoy it. And you say give it to the fellow who's standing on the altar playing basuri. He's doing no work. I do all the work and use my hard work for his. We feed him nice prasadam and everything. What he does, playing flute. What do I get? So Arjuna had this question, my dear Lord, not a question, but he's thinking, he's pondering. And then Lord Shri Krishna says, hey Arjuna, don't be a fool. Prakriti kriyamanani guna karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartam iti manyate. A foolish person thinks himself to be the doer, but he is not the doer. He is doing everything under the influence of the modes of material nature. Whereas here, Lord Shri Krishna talks that there are 5 doers, not 5 doers in that sense. There are 3 doers concept which we discussed in the 5th chapter, Atma, Paramatma, and Prakriti. And here Krishna talks about 5 causes. And when all these causes aligned, that is when the result, that is when the work gets executed. So what are these 5 causes? Very, very interesting. The 5 causes, this is 14th verse. Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidam vividha cha prathak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. These are the 5. Adhisthana, karta, karanam, cheshta, and daivam. So what are these 5 things? Adhisthana refers to the place of action, which means the body. Karta refers to jivatma. Karanam refers to instruments, the senses by which the act is performed. Cheshta, our endeavor. Daivam, destiny or the Lord. So if you see in this 5, we are only one of the cause. And what is the cause? Jivatma, karta. And what he can do, he can only desire. And our cause, our factor is only 1 by 5. 4 by 5, for the success of any act, or for any act to happen, 4 by 5, 4 other causes are responsible. Until then, it happens, we cannot be successful in executing the task. To give you an example, you might have seen, you might have found, or you might be yourself hard worker, an intelligent person working hard in an office, but when it comes time for promotion, somebody else gets a promotion or the hike. How many had that experience? And then we wonder, why do bad things happen to good people? This is the verse you have to refer. So you may have the desire, karta, karanam, you might have engaged your senses, you might have done the cheshta endeavor, adhishtanam, the body is also there, but daivam, the destiny was not there. That's the reason you didn't get it. While for others, the daiva might be there, endeavor might be there, instruments may be there, and the desire may be there, but adhishtanam is not proper, which means imagine you're driving a Luna. What is the function of any vehicle? Is to move. So you're sitting on a Luna, you're driving, which means you got a permission from Daiva to move. Endeavor is happening, instruments are engaged in moving the vehicle, and Karta, that is a desire. But Adhishtanam is what? For you right now is Luna. But if you try to compare yourself with the person who is driving a Mercedes Benz, the result produced by Mercedes Benz, who is driving Mercedes Benz, is far greater than this Luna. Yes or no? So your Adhishtanam, because it is Luna, you cannot compete with somebody who's driving Mercedes Benz. That's the point. So the result, the activities, not the result, but the activities and the results, which is a concomitant factor that happens, that depends on these 5 causes. Therefore, Krishna says there is no point for one to consider himself to be either the cause or the doer or responsible for action. To give an example, just like a doctor may claim that I save the lives of the people, I save the lives of the patient. Well, everyone likes to take credit. Who doesn't like to take credit? Just like in the summer month, every devotee in ISKCON goes out to do the book distribution. And everyone feels very proud that he could distribute some books. And many times people say, I distributed so many Srila Prabhupada books. But the matter of fact is, you met 100 people and you only gave books to 5 people. So if you think you are the doer, why did you fail with 95 people? Yes or no? If a doctor says, I take a credit of saving the lives of the people, then who takes the fault for those patients who died under your care? Yes or no? That is a point. The Krishna says, Arjuna, understand, you are not the ultimate cause. You are just 1/5 of the cause of the activities that you perform. That's the reason you have no right to the result. You should use result in the service of the Lord. So, 5 causes of action. Text number 16. Therefore, Krishna says, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. And text number 17, which means the text number 16, Krishna says, such a person is a fool who consider himself only to be the doer. Text number 17, Krishna says, one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills man in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Which means when one performs an action or activity freed from the concept of me and mine, I am doing this and the result is mine. When a person is freed from this idea, then he does not get entangled. So Krishna is trying to say, Arjuna, you will not be bound by karma because you will be following my desire. You're following my instructions, and that becomes a karma. To give you an example, Prabhupada gives an example actually in the purport. In the last few lines, Prabhupada writes, just like a soldier who is deployed at the LOC, the line of control, on the order of the government of the country, and when there is a war happens, he kills the person on the opposite side, or if he kills somebody on the enemy lines, or kills a soldier from the enemy camp, then the government awards the soldier with gallantry awards, right? Whereas the same soldier, when he gets retired and when he comes back to his home, and then he gets into a fight with his neighbor, and out of rage and anger, he kills the neighbor, then the same government puts that person behind the prison. So got the point? Because earlier when he was on the border, he fought on the order or the instruction of the government. He was awarded. Whereas now he did that act for his own purpose, to satisfy or gratify himself, to satisfy his own anger. Now the same government would punish him. And that is a point Lord Shri Krishna is trying to explain in text number 17. And like this, the first section of this 18th chapter comes to a conclusion, where S stands for summary of Karma Yoga, where we began our discussion with, should I give up work as it is troublesome or not? So Krishna disagreed, and he reiterated that activity is not bad as per se. The root of entanglement is the false ego with which we perform the activity, thinking ourselves the controller and enjoyer. In reality, there are 5 causes which bring success to any activity, and those are the adhishthanam, karta, karanam, daiva, and cheshta, which means the soul, the body, the instruments, the senses, the endeavor, and the super soul. Since we are only one of the causes, we should not have an overvalued estimation of ourselves. To conclude the first section, thus, by working in a spirit of detachment, offering the fruits of labor towards a transcendental goal, one can function in this world and simultaneously remain completely aloof. Now, with this, the first section of this 18th chapter concludes, which is the overview of the Karma Yoga section. And now we'll be discussing from the second section, where M stands for modes of nature. Again, once again, the modes of nature comes into picture. We just saw renunciation according to the modes, goodness, passion, ignorance. So the point is that Lord Shri Krishna makes here in this section, and that everything that we do, everything is influenced by these modes of material nature. And everyone is deeply engrossed or caught up into the web of modes. So Krishna pins down the modes of material nature, pins down to the modes of material nature as a cause that entangles us in this world. And we get entangled to the modes according to our individual mentality. So in this section, Lord Shri Krishna will explain how modes of material nature influences knowledge, action, worker or performer, our understanding, determination, and happiness. So we'll be discussing this subject matter for today, and we'll be pausing after it. And the remaining other section will take it next week. So let's take a look at it. This is from verse number 20 to 22. I've given the summary. I'll just read out from the book directly. In the meantime, you have the summary to refer. So knowledge is what being described first by Lord Shri Krishna according to the modes. So what is a knowledge in goodness? Knowledge in goodness means where the person sees that every living entity as a spirit soul, where he sees the living spark. In other words, he understands that all living entities are one in the sense of the spirit, acquiring different costumes. So that is said to be a knowledge in goodness. Whereas the knowledge in pure goodness means where one is enabled to see all living beings as eternal individual spiritual servants or the servants of the Lord. In goodness, one may have this knowledge, one may not have this knowledge. Like Mayavadis and impersonalists, they're also in goodness, but they think themselves to be the Lord. They see it is spirit different than the body, but they don't know that they're part and parcel of the Lord. So that's goodness, where a person can distinguish between the body and the soul. What is the knowledge in passion? Where the person understands that there is more to the body, like the scientists, scientific community, they understand there is more to the body. There is consciousness also. But their conclusion is when the body ends, the consciousness ends. And that is what it is described as the knowledge in mode of passion. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary. And what is the knowledge in ignorance? Where body is all in all, there is nothing. In fact, the body is nothing but made up of chemicals. The chemicals combine together, and that is what gives life. And that is what called as knowledge in ignorance, a foolish materialistic knowledge. So that's about knowledge. The second thing that Krishna now talks about, the work. What is the nature of the work according to the goodness, passion, and ignorance? So in text number 23, Krishna describes what is work done in goodness. So work or activities which are performed according to Shastric injunctions, where work is performed without attachment, where work is performed as a matter of duty. Of course, you don't get to see this much too often now, but if you remember your parents or maybe your grandparents, at least I can remember very well, there was never a day, in fact, while I was growing up, there was never a day that I or my family members didn't go to temple. Going to temple was was a daily routine. We have to go to temple. What we're going to go to temple, of course, I didn't understand much because nobody taught me about what is temple and what are these deities there. But I remember our grandparents and the seniors in the house would every day go to temple. Now, how many people today go to temple? Some may say, Prabhuji, I go to temple. I watch on YouTube or Sanskar TV. The Geo have their some Bhakti TV and all that where they take darshan. So now the culture is not there. So that's an act in duty where a person does it as a matter of duty and he performs it beyond the likes and dislikes, and is not attached or influenced by the result of it. What is work in passion? Where the goal of the work is sense gratification, where one wants to gratify his senses, and the work is performed on the basis of false ego, where the sense of I am the doer, I'm the controller, and I'm the enjoyer is very strong. And what about the work according to ignorance or done in ignorance, where it is completely in against the instructions of the scriptures, is destructive, it's violent, and it causes chaos to the society. It is impelled by violence and envy, is said to be the work done in ignorance, like the demons, like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu. Of course, passion was also there, and ignorance, how they torture innocent living entities. The first thing the demons do is destroy the Brahminical culture and kill cows. That's what Hiranyakashipu did, that's what Ravana did. And that is said to be a work, an action performed in Rajaguna and Tamoguna. Now, about the worker, the verses from 26 to 28 talks about a worker. So if you see, you can get it now. Work, which is done as a matter of duty. So worker in goodness is where he does it without being too attached to the results, and he does it as a duty. When I was thinking of it, the name of Abdul Kalam came to my mind. How absorbed was he in his research work? Somebody asked him, a student asked him, sir, why didn't you got married? And Abdul Kalam said, well, when I entered the lab, I was 22-year-old. When I came out, I was 72-year-old. It's not that he was inside the lab. He was so absorbed in his duty, in his work, he forgot about everything. Of course, the mode of goodness, what it means here, he's not attached to the result. And for Abdul Kalam, I don't think so. He worked because he wanted to be rich or famous. He just liked doing it and he did it. Liked or disliked, whatever it is. So that's the idea of a performer. He does it without the idea of I am the doer or based on false ego. Now, what about work done in passion? The performer becomes elated when he gets the desired result and becomes totally disgusted when what he wanted doesn't come his way. Like this, the performer in passion always stays disturbed. He always keeps going on the mood swings, happy, distress, because he's attached to the results. He's greedy. And because of greed, he also becomes envious. He is blinded by personal desires, which you can call as every worker today more or less falls into this category. Yes or no? Everyone, every educated person today would fall into this category. Majority of them. Every businessman would fall into this category. Every doctor will fall into this category. The lawyer, you name it, majority of them, because everyone is attached to their desires. And now, mode of ignorance. What is a worker according to mode of ignorance or acting in ignorance? which is totally against injunctions of scriptures, that is ignorance, where the person is completely against instructions of scriptures. Very stubborn, obstinate, he likes to cheat, he's expert in insulting others, he's lazy. Lazy means he takes promises that he will do good for others, but never does it, always unhappy, and he always keeps on procrastinating the development works of the projects. Is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. So, according to you, who comes under this mode of ignorance? We spoke about doctors, we spoke about lawyers, we spoke about teachers, different professions. There's one profession, particularly in today's time, comes under this mode of ignorance. Not the profession, but the people who are doing this profession today. Any guesses? Somebody said that? Okay. So, yes, one of the devotee gave an answer. Politicians. Yes or no? Think about it, look at it. They like to insult others. They cheat. They are procrastinating. They're lazy. They never do development projects, but they talk about development projects. That is what is being. So that's the state of our modern politicians. If the leaders are acting in ignorance, what would happen to Praja? Think about it. And that's the reason there is so much destruction in the world around. And then Lord Shri Krishna further talks about the understanding. Understanding refers to discrimination, our decision-making ability. So goodness based on scriptures, and the person knows what is right, what is wrong, and he accordingly acts. For example, smoking. The person knows the dangers of it, and he never gets into the act of smoking. He follows Shastras, and he doesn't get into a futile arguments. Just like when you talk to non-vegetarian people, those who eat non-vegetarian diet, when you talk to them, the importance of a vegetarian diet and the consequences and disasters of non-vegetarian diet for the animals and for the ecosystem of the planet, oftentimes they ask a question: why only you say animals have life, plants also have life? So if an educated engineer passed out from a college asks such a question, then what education has he or she have received in his school and college, where is comparing an animal to a plant? Have you ever seen a tree? The fruits grows on the tree. Does the tree ever consumes the fruits? Yes or no? Not at all. Whereas the animals, they're just like mammals, like humans. They have their family, they have their kids, they have their life. But the fruits, the grains that comes through these plants and the vegetation, they're meant for others. They're not meant for their consumption. So even such a simple aspect cannot be understood. Is the person really educated? He's the dumbest person of all when he argues on such a futile subject, and that is said to be ignorance. So here, goodness means the person allies with Shastras. He has a right decision-making ability. That's a understanding. What about passion? What is understanding in passion? Always confused, always bewildered. What to do? 100 times he thinks or she thinks before what to do, and when they make a decision and when they execute, then 100 times more they repent. Why did I do this? I could have done something else. That is called as mode of passion. Always confused. What is right? What is wrong? Cannot distinguish religion. What is understanding and ignorance? Dharma is adharma. Adharma is dharma for them. That is ignorance. Where everything they consider darkness to light, they consider morose happiness, they consider suffering to be the joy of life. Brigari the hunter, he would half kill the animals, and his happiness was to see the animals suffer and die. That is what means an understanding in ignorance. Maybe I'm going a little fast. I'm not giving too many examples on this, but have you seen people like in this all these different variations? Are you able to see how the modes are acting on a person? And we are foolishly thinking that we are the doer. Where are we the doer? It's all under the influence of the modes. And now, because of studying of Bhagavad Gita, you have understood you can change your modes. Next is the determination, and just two more items remaining. Similarly, like understanding is influence, so does our determination. Determination is will to do something. How is the determination in goodness? Krishna says that determination is unbreakable, which is sustained by steadfastness, by yoga practice, by which person can control the activities of mind, life, and senses. That determination is a mode of goodness. I remember many times people ask us, Prabhuji, I take vows, I decide for myself, but I cannot keep up the vows. My determination is not strong enough. So for those who say their determination is not strong enough, what do you think where their determination lies in? It's in, you can call ignorance or passion. We'll explain that. But in goodness, if a determination is goodness, which means if a person is in goodness, then determination would also be in goodness. When he makes a decision, he sticks to it. Now, similarly, mode of passion person also have a determination, very strong determination, but that determination is focused only for the acts of sense gratification. Just like there was one of the students who came back from office around 10 o'clock, and he finished his dinner by 11:15, and he was just watching a TV. A new person, he was just watching a TV, and in the TV he saw an advertisement. An advertisement was about noodles or chow mein. Suddenly he developed a desire. I want to eat chow mein. 11 o'clock in the night, he just recently connected to us, was attending program, and he comes and tells me later on that, Prabhu, I went out at 11 o'clock in the night for 3 hours. That is called determination. In the middle of the night, you're roaming on the streets of Pune. For 3 hours, he went from the north to the south, to the east and the west of the Pune, searching for chow mein. Finally got frustrated, came back, drank a cup of tea and slept off, and got late next day and chastised by the manager. So there is a determination, but that called determination in mode of passion, where he wants to fulfill his the sensual desires. Whereas determination in goodness is to progress in spiritual life. And what is determination in ignorance? How many of you have heard daydreaming? Where a person keeps on dreaming, where a person keeps on making plans but never executes. He is a lazy. The determination means lazy and always thinking but never acting. That is said to be determination in ignorance. This is text number 35. Morose illusion like that. And finally, happiness. Happiness is also according to goodness, passion, ignorance. So person who is in goodness, what gives them happiness? And those who are in passion, what gives them happiness? And those who are in ignorance, what makes them happy? That is what is more or less discussed here. And also, what is the nature of the happiness in goodness, passion, ignorance is being described. So nature of happiness and goodness is, which means the activities in goodness, which means that helps you progress in spiritual life. That is a platform of goodness. So what is the nature of happiness and goodness? It tastes like poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. Which means just like waking up early in the morning, Kartik Mahina has started now. It is strongly recommended to every day chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to wake up early in the morning, take a bath, freshen up yourself, and then chant the holy names of the Lord. Offer ghee lamp to the form of the Lord is considered very auspicious. And that is what gives them happiness. So here the happiness is described as, in the beginning, when we begin to do spiritual activities, it seems very troublesome. But what is the end result? End result is love of Godhead. So in the beginning, it is poison. In the end, it is nectar. What is the nature of happiness and passion? It is nectar in the beginning, but poison in the end. Just like people who get into this habit of drinking alcohol, they find like as if they're drinking somaras. Yes or no? The people who get addicted to smoking, when they smoke, they feel like getting a kick. They feel like getting a little bit enlightened or something. They become joyful. But you know what happens by smoking and drinking, the bad effects of it. So that is called as happiness in mode of passion. And Prabhupada gives an example of illicit relationship, wherein the young boy and girl meets, and they call as aakho hi aakho mein ishara ho gaya, the love at first sight. But because it has not been properly arranged, not with the consultation of the parents, and they have not done vivah yajna, but they get into an illicit relationship, they end up having a sexual activity, and then finally they become completely disgusted from each other. So what started as a nectar becomes a poison in the end. As it is said, in the beginning it tasted like rasgulla, in the end it tasted like bitter gourd, something like that. And then what about happiness and ignorance? Suffering in the beginning, suffering in the end, it's always suffering only. That is called as ignorance, which is entirely against scriptures, and there's no joy, which means such a person finds happiness in the most disgusting activities. Like, give an example of Magari. He found his joy in killing others. Similarly, there are religious practices today where they are taught that killing others is their dharma. Their God is a supreme God, and all other gods are Satan's. Where things are being described with the people who follow this, of course, they're following because they are getting some happiness. Otherwise, why would they follow such religious practices and dictations? And on the name of religion, they kill others, and killing others is what gives them happiness, is what is said to be happiness in mode of ignorance. With this, we conclude the second section, not the chapter 18. Chapter 18 is still more to go. And as I said, we'll do it in two parts. So today we saw the two sections of chapter 18. S, where S stands for summary of Karma Yoga, where Krishna emphasizes perform the work, but with detachment. That is the call as renunciation. That is true renunciation. And then Lord Shri Krishna described how everything in this world is influenced by the modes, our understanding, our happiness, our knowledge, even renunciation, whatever you say, all is affected. And ahead, when we meet next week, on next Saturday, we'll be discussing about the three remaining sections of chapter 18. And on the coming Sunday, we'll have a very important and a wonderful session by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu. And with that, we'll conclude our Gita Essence series. So I thank you all for joining us for today evening Bhagavad Gita class. And a humble request to all of you, it's Kartik month. Please do take a vow or make an attempt to chant every day the holy names of the Lord. So those of you who are listening to us right now, if you can write down how many rounds you chant, if in case you're chanting, or else on this very special month of Kartik, which is very dear to Srimati Radharani, if you would like to commit that I would like to chant at least this much number of rounds for the pleasure of the Lord, and this becomes an act of devotional service for us. And that is the whole message of Bhagavad Gita, to perform activities which are pleasing to the Lord, and the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is said to be the easiest means to attract the attention of the Lord and to please Him. Because the meaning of this prayer is, my dear Lord, kindly engage me in your devotional service. And that is a way of eternal life and a joyful life. So if you would like, you may leave a comment wherever you are on Zoom or the YouTube. And I hope you have been solving quizzes. This week, maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll be releasing 17th and 18th chapter. And I believe our hosts have shared the results of first 12 quizzes. And lastly, and the most important, if you would like to stay in touch with us after this program also, so our hosts have created a form wherein you can give your preferences. What would be the next subject? What would you like? I have given some subjects. So if you like something from that, you can select, or if you have some suggestion that we should start this particular course or a topic to be discussed, then you can let us know. And we'll start the discussion after Diwali. So next week we conclude. After that, the following weekend we'll give a break. That's the Diwali weekend. And after that, around 20th of November, we'll start with the next program. So do let us know what you think about it. With that, thank you. Hare Krishna, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay. Prabhuji, it seems there are no questions today.
All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.